Imagine you are standing before a mirror. It is not a stranger's mirror, but your own. The one you have faced 1,000 times. The lighting is familiar, the faint smudges are your own history, and the face staring back is undeniably yours. Yet, today, something is different. Look closer, past the tired lines around your eyes, past the practiced, weary smile. Look into the eyes. There is a stillness there, a depth that feels ancient and unfamiliar. It is a gaze that knows you, but not as you know yourself. It has seen every compromise you have ever made, every silent betrayal of your own ideals, every whispered lie you told yourself in the dead of night. This reflection is not judging you, not anymore. It is simply waiting for you to acknowledge the silent partner that has co-authored your entire existence. You turn away, a cold knot tightening in your stomach. You walk through your home, a space you have meticulously curated to reflect who you believe you are. The books on the shelf, the art on the walls, the very color of the paint. These are the artifacts of your chosen identity, the bricks and mortar of a cathedral you have built to yourself. It is a beautiful, well-lit place, designed for visitors, designed for admiration, but you, and only you, know about the basement. You never go down there. You pretend the door to it doesn't even exist. Down there, in the damp, quiet, dark, is everything you have ever disowned. Every surge of irrational anger, every flicker of shameful envy, every creative impulse you deemed strange or too dangerous to pursue. Down there are the ghosts of the people you could have been, the lives you sacrificed for the sake of safety, for the sake of being good, normal, successful. We spend our lives as architects of this cathedral of self, desperately trying to build higher and higher, to catch more and more light. We preach gospels of positivity, of relentless self-improvement, of manifesting a flawless reality. And in doing so, we have embraced a great and terrible paradox. The brighter the light we chase, the sharper and darker the shadow we cast. The more perfect the facade, the more monstrous the unseen things that fester in the cellar become. We are a generation that has become pathologically afraid of its own depth. We have mistaken the curated surface for the whole of the territory. And now we wonder why we feel so hollow, so disconnected, so perpetually anxious, like we are living in a house with a poltergeist we refuse to acknowledge. Why is it that the moment of our greatest triumph is often followed by a wave of inexplicable melancholy? Why does a sudden, destructive impulse sometimes arise from a place of perfect contentment? What is this counterweight, this gravitational pull toward the void that seems to balance every step we take toward the sun? We treat these moments as aberrations, as glitches in our programming, as enemies to be meditated, or therapized away. We pathologize our own complexity, desperately seeking a cure for the simple, terrifying crime of being whole. But what if this inner darkness is not an enemy? What if it is not a flaw to be corrected or a disease to be cured? What if it is a fundamental part of your machinery, as vital and as intelligent as your unconscious mind? What if this abyss within you is not a pit to fall into, but a well from which to draw forgotten strength? For too long, you have been running from this shadow, terrified of what it represents. You have exhausted yourself building walls against your own nature, but the thing in the mirror is no longer content to be ignored. The whispers from the basement are growing louder. It has been called many things throughout history: the shadow, the idea, the other. But these are just academic cages for something wild and sacred. Let us call it what it feels like: a presence, and a bees that gazes back. And it is inviting you to stop, to turn around, and to finally ask the question that will define the rest of your life. What does it want? So, you have turned to face it. You have quieted the noise of your curated life long enough to hear the silence asking a question. What does this presence want? The answer is as simple as it is terrifying. It wants to be known. That is all. It is the abandoned child of your psyche, locked in the cellar, and it is rattling the door not to destroy the house, but simply to be led upstairs, to be given a seat at your table. This is not a monster born of malice, but a refugee created by your own judgment. Its existence is the greatest secret of the human condition, a secret whispered by the great explorers of the inner world for centuries. The psychoanalyst Carl Jung gave it a name that has echoed through the halls of thought. He called it the shadow. He described it as the person you would rather not be. It is the unwilling container for every aspect of yourself that you have deemed weak, embarrassing, sinful, or inferior. Your jealousy, your aggression, your untamed sexuality, your wild creativity, everything that didn't fit into the neat, socially acceptable blueprint of the you present to the world was disowned and cast into this internal darkness. But here's the foundational error, the miscalculation upon which we build our fragile lives. You cannot throw anything away. There is no away. Every quality you disowned did not vanish. It simply clustered together in the unconscious, gaining strength, gaining autonomy, forming a kind of shadow government of the soul. It operates outside your conscious control, yet it is fueled by your life force. And because it is starving for acknowledgement, it hijacks your life in subtle, insidious ways. It is the architect of your self-sabotage, the venom in your tongue when you lash out unexpectedly. It is the force that trips you at the finish line, that whispers insecurities in the ear of your lover, that makes you inexplicably critical of the very people who embody the freedom you secretly crave. When you see someone else's success and feel a bitter sting of envy, that is your shadow pointing to a potential within yourself that you have failed to cultivate. When you feel an overwhelming and irrational dislike for someone, that is often your shadow recognizing itself in another, forcing you to confront what you have repressed. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche understood this dynamic with chilling clarity. He warned, "And if you gaze long enough into an abyss, the abyss will gaze back into you." We have always interpreted this as a warning against becoming a monster while fighting one, but its true meaning is far more profound. It is not a warning, it is a statement of fact, a law of psychic physics. The abyss gazing back is not an attack, it is a response. It is the first moment of recognition, the beginning of a terrifying but necessary dialogue. Nietzsche spoke of two primal forces within us: the Apollonian, representing order, reason, and the beautiful, logical structure of your cathedral of self, and the Dionysian, representing chaos, intoxication, instinct, and the raw, untamed energy thrumming in your cellar. A complete human, a healthy civilization, needs both in a dynamic, respectful dance, yet our modern world has declared war on the deep. We have built a society that rewards the Apollonian exclusively: logic, productivity, predictability, control. We have tried to engineer a world without a shadow, and the result, the Dionysian denied its rightful, creative expression, has not disappeared. It has simply gone underground, erupting as addiction, as senseless violence, as epidemic anxiety, as the quiet, pervasive despair that haunts our brightly lit, hyper-connected world. This is the hidden problem. Your inner abyss is not a personal failing. It is the consequence of a collective divorce from our own nature. You feel this internal split so acutely because you are a microcosm of a schism that runs through our entire culture. You are taught from birth to amputate parts of yourself, to present a polished, edited version of your being, and to be terrified of what you've cut away. You are told that your anger is toxic, not that it is a source of boundary-setting power. You are told your sorrow is a weakness, not that it is a gateway to profound empathy. You are told your ecstatic, chaotic joy is irresponsible, not that it is the very engine of creation. And so the shadow grows, fed by a steady diet of your most vital, authentic energies. It doesn't want to ruin you. It wants to reintegrate with you. It wants to make you whole again. But as long as you treat it like an enemy, it will be forced to act like one. It will continue to pull the strings from behind the curtain, making you a puppet in your own life, forever reacting to its hidden agenda, never truly understanding why you do the things you do. The tension you feel is the strain of a soul divided against itself, and this division is no accident. It is, in fact, incredibly useful to a system that does not want you to be whole. This inner division is not your fault, but it has become your prison, and it is the most profitable, most effective, most invisible prison ever designed, for its walls are built from your own fear and its bars are forged from your own judgment. A person at war with themselves is a person who is too exhausted to fight anyone else. Your life force, which could be used to create, to challenge, to build a world of meaning, is instead consumed by the monumental task of policing your own soul. You become the perfect, compliant subject, a tired consumer, a docile employee, a distracted citizen. This is the great, unspoken engine of our modern world. It does not run on oil or data. It runs on your unacknowledged shadow. See how it works. Your own mind, in a desperate attempt to maintain the fragile peace, becomes a corrupted agent. It deploys cognitive biases not as shortcuts, but as defense systems for the ego. Confirmation bias becomes a loyal servant scouring the world for any piece of evidence that confirms the limited, safe story you tell about yourself, while conveniently ignoring anything that might suggest you are more powerful, more complex, or more dangerous than you believe. This is why you stay in jobs you hate and relationships that diminish you, because they confirm the story that you are not worthy of more. Even more potent is the mechanism of projection. This is the psychic alchemy that turns your inner demons into outer enemies. That rage you bury, you see it everywhere in the angry, irrational people who oppose you politically. That deep-seated insecurity, you project it onto your partner, endlessly questioning their loyalty. The grand spectacle of our cultural and political polarization, the screaming matches on cable news, the endless wars on social media, is nothing more than the collective projection of millions of individual, unexamined shadows. We have mistaken the world for our mirror, and we are trying to shatter the reflection instead of looking at our own face. On a neurological level, you are living in a state of perpetual, low-grade siege. Your nervous system was not designed for this kind of internal civil war. The amygdala, your brain's ancient threat detector, cannot distinguish between a tiger in the grass and a threatening impulse rising from your own unconscious. To it, the repressed rage or the forbidden desire is a mortal danger, and so it floods your system with cortisol and adrenaline, keeping you in a constant hum of anxiety or fight. Your prefrontal cortex, the seat of your conscious will, your reason, your better angels, spends all its energy trying to suppress these signals. This is the source of that bone-deep exhaustion you feel at the end of the day. That feeling of being drained without having done anything physically strenuous. You have been fighting the most intimate enemy possible, yourself. And into this manufactured state of weakness and confusion, the system enters. It comes not as a tyrant with a whip, but as a friendly savior with a product. The entire edifice of modern consumer culture is built upon the foundation of your disowned self. It is a marketplace for the shadow. Every advertisement is a masterclass in psychological manipulation, designed to whisper to the parts of you that you feel are lacking. Are you not beautiful enough, thin enough, young enough? Here is a cream, a diet, a surgery, a way to fix the flaw that was taught to you. Are you not successful or powerful enough? Here is a car, a watch, a brand, an external symbol to patch the internal void. Social media is perhaps the most perfect engine for this ever created. It is the global stage for the cathedral of self, a place where you are invited, encouraged, and algorithmically rewarded for curating the most flawless light-filled Apollonian facade possible. You post your victories, your perfect vacations, your filtered smiles, all while you shadow your loneliness. Your fear, your messy, authentic self drives the desperate, frantic need for validation in the form of likes, shares, and comments. The system doesn't want to heal your inner split. It wants to manage it. It wants to sell you the endless stream of products that promise to keep the basement door locked, to muffle the screams, to distract you from the rattling. Because a person who feels whole is not a good consumer. A person who has embraced their shadow does not need external validation. A person who is not afraid of their own darkness cannot be controlled by fear. You are trapped in a feedback loop. The culture creates the wound, and then it sells you the bandage. But the bandage is poisoned, it only makes the wound fester. You have been meticulously taught to fight, to suppress, to medicate, and to hate the most vital parts of your own being. And in doing so, you have been handing the keys to your own cell to the very forces that benefit from your imprisonment. So what is the way out? Do you rage against the machine? Do you protest the system? That is just another external battle, another projection of the inner war. It is another trap. The path to freedom, the true revolution, is not to fight harder. It is to do the one thing you have been conditioned since birth to believe is unthinkable. The unthinkable act, the one thing you have been conditioned to avoid at all costs, is this: you must turn toward the darkness voluntarily. The path to liberation is not to build the walls of your cathedral higher, but to take the rusty key you've been hiding in your own palm. Walk calmly to that basement door, unlock it, and descend the stairs. Not with armor and a sword, not to do battle, but with a lantern and a question. The radical shift is from suppression to integration. It is the conscious decision to stop fighting the monster in your cellar and to instead ask it why it screams, what it hungers for, and what treasures it has been guarding there in the dark. This is the beginning of what has been called shadow work, but it is not work in the sense of labor. It is the work of an artist, an archaeologist of the self, excavating the ruins of your own disowned beauty. The process begins with a simple, yet profound, change in your internal posture. You must learn to listen to your own triggers. The next time you feel that sudden, hot surge of rage at a careless driver, that sharp pang of envy at a friend's success, that overwhelming judgment towards someone's lifestyle, stop. Do not react. Do not lash out. Do not numb yourself with distraction. For one moment, just hold that raw, uncomfortable energy in your awareness. Let it be there without a label. Then, with genuine, compassionate curiosity, ask it, what part of me is this? What truth about my own desires or my own fears are you trying to show me? The person who triggers you is never the true source of your reaction. They are merely the mirror reflecting a part of your own unlit interior. To engage in this practice is to begin withdrawing your projections from the world. Imagine calling all of your soldiers home from the 1,000 pointless wars you are waging externally. The energy you spend hating a political party, resenting a family member, judging a stranger. Imagine recalling that vast psychic power back into the center of your own being. The world outside you would suddenly grow quiet, and you would become dangerously, brilliantly alive. You must also learn to question your virtues. Look at the brightest, most polished parts of your identity, the qualities for which you are praised, and ask, what shadow do they cast? If you are relentlessly kind and accommodating, could it be because you are terrified of the immense power of your own anger and your ability to say? If you are a bastion of logic and reason, is it because you fear the chaotic, unpredictable wisdom of your own intuition? Your greatest, most celebrated strengths often grow in direct opposition to a powerful, repressed part of your nature. To question your virtues is to find the hidden back door to the basement. It is to realize that the person you are and the person you refuse to be are two ends of the same stick. To grasp one is to eventually be forced to acknowledge the other. This journey is not new. It is the oldest story we have, the hero's descent into the underworld. The Sumerian goddess Inanna, queen of heaven, had to strip herself of all her worldly power and identity, one item at a time, To enter the realm of her dark sister, she had to die to a known self to be reborn. Whole, Orpheus had to brave Hades for his love, armed only with his music. These are not just myths, they are psychological maps left for us by our ancestors. They teach us that the treasure, the love, the wisdom, the wholeness is always found in the deepest, most frightening place. The great Russian writer Fyodor Dostoevsky did not write his profound novels by avoiding the darkness. He waded into the minds of murderers and saints, understanding that the line between them was terrifyingly thin, and that divinity could only be understood by staring directly into the abyss of human potential for both good and evil. By doing this, you reclaim the immense energy you were wasting. The power it took to hold that basement door shut was monumental. It was a constant drain on your vitality, your creativity, your joy. When you release that tension, when you allow the disowned parts of yourself to be seen, that energy is returned to you tenfold. The monster you feared was just a starved god, chained in the dark. And when you feed it with your compassionate attention, you do not become the monster, you integrate its power. The rigid categories you once used to navigate reality, good and evil, right and wrong, me and you, begin to soften and blur. The integration of your inner world precipitates a fundamental shift in your perception of the outer world. And this is the gateway to the final, most powerful realization of all. As the war inside you quiets and the rigid categories of your mind begin to dissolve, the final and most profound realization does not arrive like a thunderclap, but like a slow, silent, and irreversible sunrise. It illuminates the entire landscape of your being and reveals the fundamental illusion you have been living under. The abyss, the shadow, the darkness you have feared, fought, and tried to integrate was never a separate part of you. The truth is that you have always been an emergent property of it. The separation was the dream. The division was the grandest fiction ever told. The inner darkness is not a pit contained within your soul. It is the boundless, silent, intelligent space from which your soul, your ego, your very sense of I arose in the first place. You are not a wave that fears the vast, dark ocean beneath. You are the ocean, temporarily expressing itself as a wave. This is the ultimate paradigm shift, the final turning of the key. It is the move from duality to unity. The lifelong struggle between your good self and your shadow self has been a battle between two phantom armies, a civil war inside a ghost. You are neither. You are the silent, impartial awareness that witnesses both. That surge of anger is not you. It is a weather pattern passing through the vast, open sky of your consciousness. That wave of profound joy is not you. It is a sunbeam warming that same sky. The thoughts, the memories, the ambitions, the fears, these are just clouds. For your entire life you have been identifying with the clouds, believing yourself to be a small, vulnerable wisp of vapor at the mercy of the winds. The final realization is that you are, and have always been, the sky itself, indestructible, infinite, and utterly free. With this insight, the struggles of your past are suddenly cast in a new, crystal clear light. They were all symptoms of a mistaken identity. The anxiety you felt was the terror of the wave, forgetting it was the ocean, fearing its own inevitable return to the whole. The self-sabotage was the desperate, confused attempt of a cloud to control the wind, not realizing it had no solid form to begin with. The projections you cast upon the world were the frantic gestures of a dream character, pointing at other figures in the dream and blaming them for the script, a script being written by the dreamer itself. Your fear of the abyss was nothing less than the ego's fear of its own source, a fear of the formless, infinite potential from which it was born and to which it must return. It was the fear of true freedom. The darkness you ran from was never a threat. It was the fertile, unmanifest soil from which the tree of your life grew. The silence you desperately tried to fill with noise, with achievements, with validation, was the very canvas that made the music of your life possible. Without the silence, there is no note. Without the darkness, there is no starlight. You are not a fragile cathedral with a secret in the basement. You are the entire landscape. You are the sunlit peaks of your greatest virtues and the unplumbed canyons of your deepest fears. You are the raging storm of your anger and the gentle rain of your sorrow. To accept this is to finally come home. The goal was never to conquer the abyss or to purify the shadow. The goal was to become vast enough to hold all of it, to recognize all of it as the indivisible texture of what you are. So the final question is not how you defeat your darkness. It is not even how you integrate it. The final and only question is this: can you be brave enough to cease the struggle and simply be what you already are? Can you stop identifying with the fleeting wave and remember the boundless ocean? The abyss is not asking you to conquer it. It is not inviting you to fall. It is asking you to recognize that you have been breathing it your entire life. Look in the mirror one last time. Let your gaze sink past the surface, past the identity you've constructed, past the fear and the striving. The eyes that gaze back are not just yours anymore. They are the eyes of existence itself, looking out from a quiet, eternal depth, patiently waiting for you to recognize your own face and to finally understand that the darkness was just the shadow cast by a light you have not yet dared to claim.